Hey everybody, welcome once again to the Football Fandemic, where today we are going to be looking forward to the playoff picture, what that's going to look like in each division, hitting some news, looking at games from the past week, looking at games coming up, all that and more here on the Football Fandemic. Well, hey everybody, I might have gotten a little antsy on the music kickoff and started it before we started the live stream. So if that music just kind of jumps in there, yeah, there you go. It's a special for this week only. Hey guys, how are you all this week in your various places of living and existence?
It's good in Wisconsin. It's temperatures dropped a little bit. I've woken up a few days to 39 degrees.
Yeah, we got like 44 or something here last night, and tonight I'm going tent camping, and it's going to be right back around there.
Good luck.
Oh boy, it's going to be a chilly one.
Still triple digits out here in Arizona, so I don't know what's going on.
Really?
But yeah, the Apple weather app says that it should get down to like the 80s within 10 days. So hopefully it's just, a really drastic drop in temperature, and hopefully Apple isn't lying and just getting my hopes up like the Vikings are probably doing this season.
I love no, the Vikings. That's a real thing. You don't second guess that. But here's the thing: you're saying you're going to get down to the 80s. We're getting up close to the 80s today. We're getting to 79, I think, here, and I just keep looking at that, like from like 44 to 79. It's like a 33 degree, something like that, change from day to night. That feels like a lot. And then it's going to go back down tonight, but you're just trying to get down to 80s. That's crazy for me to even think about this time of year. So. Well, hey guys, we are going to start as we always do with some of the kind of big news going on in the NFL. And I think the biggest news that's happening this week, as far as dominating the headlines right now, is all of the hubbub and the buzz going on in the Big Apple in the New York Jets, not the Giants. They have no buzz going on right now that I know of. But the Jets, they, out of the blue, out of nowhere, it seemed like, fired their head coach, Robert Saleh, right? Gone. Did you guys expect that? And then, I'll just throw all this out and then we can talk about all of it. Then, like right away, their interim head coach, I forgot his name already.
Their defensive coordinator.
Yeah, defensive coordinator, whoever he was. He stepped in as the interim for the rest of this year. Woody Johnson let everybody know. And then immediately, Nathaniel Hackett was demoted and Downing or something.
He is no longer their offensive play caller.
Right. And so the offensive play caller is now going to be a different guy. And so Aaron Rodgers was there. Nathaniel Hackett comes in because being with him a long time in Green Bay. Saleh's fired. And there was a big hubbub around like, oh, did Aaron Rodgers have anything to do with this? And everybody's like, no, I don't think so. But what are your guys' thoughts on all of the New York goings on?
Well, yeah, I don't know if I expected it to be this early in the season, but I think had the season continued to go the way it was going, trending this way, I expected perhaps Saleh to get fired at some point in the season. Yeah. After the London game, when you've got still a chance at first place in the division on the line for this Monday night, it seems like a little bit early. I think Saleh's defense has not been the problem. I don't know who calls the defensive plays, if it was just the defensive coordinator, Jeff Ulbrich, or Robert Saleh, but in San Francisco, Saleh's defense was great. With the Jets, it's been great. So to me, I think it's a little bit premature. I don't know if Aaron Rodgers had anything to do with it. I'm sure he at least had to, I would assume, give some sort of approval, even if he says that he didn't. I feel like he has a little bit more power.
Seems odd that Woody called him that night, the night before, and like wasn't at least feeling him out for what if this happens. He says there was no talk of it, but.
And there's been some like awkward moments with, the shove on the sidelines. And then in a press conference, they said, Robert Saleh had said, oh, we have to, have less cadences at the line of scrimmage. And then later Aaron Rodgers said, no, I don't think we need to have so there was some like tension. It seemed like that was palpable. But again, I don't think Aaron Rodgers went to Woody Johnson and said, hey, we need to get this guy out of here. I do think Woody Johnson ran it by Aaron Rodgers first to finalize and confirm that final decision.
It's interesting to me, and I'm going to let you talk, Brandon, because I know you probably have some thoughts about this, as this used to be your quarterback. But it seems really. I was wondering about the timing of this. You said they're one game out of first place in their division, and you said that seems a little premature. And you got to wonder if Woody Johnson was like, "We're one game out, and I can tell this is not going well now. Maybe we can fix it." But man, that's scary to like say, hey, let's just throw all new kind of leadership going on here. But this is the first time that Woody Johnson has fired someone in his 25 years mid-season. And so that's kind of notable in itself. But what do you think about it, Brandon?
Some people want to take the Aaron Rodgers route. I don't necessarily want to read in between those lines. I know Aaron's perspective in his last organization, he'd have a hard time contacting all of the owners of Green Bay trying to fire a coach. It just doesn't happen like that over here. In New York, there is an owner. I'm not exactly sure the total relationship between the Jets owner and Aaron Rodgers and how much Aaron has control over things. As an owner, I would want Aaron to have a good handle of stuff. He's obviously proven himself as a quarterback historically in this league, and I want to make sure he's comfortable. I don't know if he would have went out and wanted Robert Saleh fired. My opinion, just based on the reports that I've read, I think it was Woody Johnson's decision, not Aaron Rodgers' decision. Mm-hmm. And I say that because as he was being fired, he was escorted out of the building by team security without the ability to do anything in the building. So when I hear that, I'm thinking there's mistrust between the owner and the coach, not necessarily between the coach and the quarterback. As we know, the coach and quarterbacks in this league, there's always some sort of drama in every division. The quarterback doesn't like what the coach is doing. The coach doesn't like what the quarterback is doing. Last year, it was most famous for Russell Wilson, Sean Payton in Denver, their controversy there. And so I think it was more of an issue with owner head coach rather than owner quarterback. And that I'm assuming there was some sort of, situation where voices were raised in a meeting. Probably things were said that shouldn't have been said. I don't know what any of those said things would have been, but those are my assumptions. It was more of an issue with Woody Johnson than with Aaron Rodgers.
For me in stuff like this is, so when Saleh came in, I thought, I had great expectations just based on what he had done before. I thought, man, he's going to do well with the Jets. And I never felt like he got like a complete fair shake because he got Zach Wilson. Did he draft Zach Wilson or did he come in after Zach Wilson was drafted?
I think he came in to Zach Wilson.
Yeah, he came in. That draft pick had already happened, and then he was hired. It was not his choice. And he had Zach Wilson for a couple years, and that was just, they tried. It wasn't working, and we all saw that. Then we got Aaron Rodgers. He's going to save us. He comes in all offseason. They're planning it. The hype machine goes crazy, and then the fourth snap of the game or whatever, he's out. And then it's like, so this is maybe where he bungled things because he kind of went back to Zach Wilson. Then he went away from Zach Wilson, went to some other people, and then came back to Zach Wilson. It was kind of a mess there for a while last season. And then, this season, we're going to get Aaron Rodgers back, and it's going to be good. And then Aaron Rodgers is back, but it's not good. I feel like he never had good quarterback play. And maybe I'm overstating, maybe there's more to it than that. And maybe this is why I'm not an NFL owner, because I still have those like remnants of like, I feel like he should have been better than this. And maybe it's something else. And maybe that's where I would hold too long onto somebody who is not good. And I know that happens in the NFL all the time. You get somebody who's expected to be good and they get held on to a lot longer than they should have. And I'd probably be the guy holding on longer than I should.
Yeah, anyone that's curious, I'm not going to dig into this whole topic right now, but about what Josh talked about last week with offensive lines, I think that applies perfectly to the New York Jets. They really didn't have a competent offensive line under Saleh until this past offseason where it got slightly better, not overly better, but it did receive an improvement. But they didn't put a lot of stock into this offense. I love Allen Lazard. he has a good spot in my heart. But Alan Lazard is not not going to be your receiver to pay $44 million to, right? Garrett Wilson, yes, he is. He is that guy, but he's still on a rookie contract, so you haven't hit there yet. Maybe Devontae Adams, and we'll talk about that here in a minute, was going to be their saving grace, depending on how contract stuff worked out with Vegas. We still don't have an update on him. But their defense under Saleh, I thought, was really solid. I think Saleh did get the chance. He drafted Sauce Gardner. We saw him. He was Defensive Rookie of the Year. He's been a staple corner in the NFL since he's entered the league. We've seen good stuff happen under Saleh defensively, not so much good stuff offensively. And I know they were trying to figure out that quarterback position. I know their offensive line has never been great. They've really only had the one receiver. They have a pair of stud running backs that can't stay healthy. There's just a lot of stuff offensively not going well for the Jets.
Yeah. Well, New York, you've got a lot to deal with, but you guys love to talk about it. I'm sure we'll hear about it a lot, so we're not going to spend too much more time on this. Do want to, as far as news get to, we have some new quarterbacks, new starting quarterbacks this week in a few places. So New England is starting Drake May, right? They've said Brissett's not going to be the guy. They made that change. New Orleans is starting Rattler. What's his first name?
Spencer Rattler.
Spencer, that's right. I knew it was there. Spencer Rattler. And then the Raiders are starting O'Connell, which this is not his first start, right? But he will be taking over for Gardner Minshew. Are there any other fresh starts happening this week?
I think those are the most notable ones. With the Saints, I think we should note the injury on Derek Carr, right, which is the reason why they have a young guy starting. This was not an issue with Derek Carr. It's just it a hamstring, ACL, some sort of leg injury, I think, a calf.
Something. He has an oblique injury he suffered when he took a hit against Kansas City. But it is interesting, I think, that in that game, Jake Haener was the backup, and now they're deciding to go with Spencer Rattler as the number one moving forward. Haener, a second-year player, and then Rattler. He's from Arizona, so I got to cover a couple of his games when he was in high school, and he had a personality that was a little bit polarizing, that matured a lot when he got to South Carolina and got away from Oklahoma. So I'm excited to see what he can do. He's got a good arm. He makes a lot of mistakes, but like the arm talent is there.
So here's the question. Those three are starting this week. Do you expect any of them to see success this weekend? So we've got New England. They're going to be playing Houston, right? We got, so that's Drake May. Rattler's going to be versus the Bucks. They're New Orleans versus Bucks. And then the Raiders are going to be versus the Steelers. So O'Connell's going up against the Steelers. Do you see any success from any of these three?
I think let's define what the success might look like. If we're talking 300 plus yards and 5 touchdowns, I'm doubtful on all of that for any of them. But what I'm
win.
What I'm looking to see out of these guys is, can they just understand what the defense is doing and make smart decisions? If I'm starting a new guy, I'm not overly concerned about winning. I'm overly concerned about seeing how my player reacts on the field. And so if he can just take a breath and make some easy completions, maybe some throwdowns and a couple 15-yard passes, to me, that's success. Not turning the ball over, making smart decisions.
I feel like it's different based on which team you're on. So if I'm the Raiders, I'm not just looking for somebody who can kind of manage the game, because I feel like that's what Gardner Minshew was doing. I think you need to be like, okay, is this guy better? Is he going to win? That's what I'm looking for with him. With Drake May, I think they want to see, okay, is he possibly going to be the guy for us? It's like, we're not doing it with Brissett, and so let's put him out here and let's see what he's got. Rattler, I think the difference there is, I think they know they're going back to Derek Carr, period. And it's like, okay, let's just kind of give him a taste of the NFL. And for him, can he keep his head? Can he not like make huge mistakes? I think that's going to be, so I think for me, each of those teams probably has a different win barometer. But as far as like, will one of them win the game versus the Steelers, Bucks, or Houston, I highly doubt any of those win.
Yeah. I think Rattler would have the best chance of winning just because the Saints do have like all those offensive pieces with Rashid Shaheed and Chris Olave and Alvin Kamara around him. I'm not going to trust Aiden O'Connell against a Steelers defense that has been lights out this season. Houston's defense has been iffy, but Drake May just doesn't really have a whole lot of pieces to work with. The offensive line isn't great. Ramondre Stevenson's been fumbling, it seems like, every single game, even though he is able to get good chunks of yards. So I don't have a ton of faith in just the help that I like Drake May. He was the guy I wanted the Vikings to trade up and draft Drake May, but against Houston, that's a tough ask, especially when you got Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson coming down at you at both sides.
Right. So we got some good young people out there to watch this week, some new faces. So we'll kind of watch those games with half an eye. Not that they're going to be on our like marquee game list probably, but they're in there. So here's the question before we move on to our teams. Hopefully this is none of our teams, but what was the biggest surprise for you from last week? Biggest surprise, and I'm going to list the 3 here as possibles, but you may come up with a 4th one. Was it the Cardinals beating the 49ers? Was it the Giants beating the Seahawks? Or was it the Cowboys beating the Steelers?
For me, I think it's going to be the Giants beating the Seahawks. Daniel Jones looked really good against a Seahawks team that's calling card now is supposed to be defense with their new head coach. And it did not look good once again. And that's the second week in a row that the Seahawks defense has really struggled. They couldn't stop Jared Goff from even throwing an incompletion. And now they looked Daniel Jones. They made him look like he was Phil Simms in his prime. So that was really surprising. And I think that if I'm a Seahawks fan, I am getting a little bit worried about what Mike McDonald's defense can do. Cardinals 49ers is a little bit surprising, but given that the kicker got injured in the middle of the game for the 49ers, they had to go for it on 4th and 26 at one point because it wouldn't have made sense to punt and they couldn't put their punter out for a field goal. Game. Yeah. So like there were some extenuating circumstances there, but I was really shocked by the Giants and Seahawks.
I think that'd be my pick as well. Yeah, especially considering I felt like the Seahawks probably were doing so well in that division that they might win it. Now there's a little bit of a question in my mind. What about you, Brandon?
I also agree the Giants was a surprising win. I had another surprising win. I don't think you mentioned, Matthew, but I know you will mention the Jaguars.
Yeah, I kind of held off on that one because that was going to be one of our home games. Yep. Unfortunately, I don't know that it was as great a surprise for me as the Giants beating the Seahawks because Jags always play us tough. But
I understand Jags playing you tough. You're in Jacksonville for that game, but having a 3-point game and a relatively high-scoring game too. Both teams above 30 points. It's a pretty high-scoring game, and so I wasn't expecting Jacksonville to come out and put up over 35 points. It surprised me.
We'll just jump into the home games. Has Jacksonville lost by more than a score? I think every one of their games. I'm trying to remember.
Well, the Buffalo Monday night game, they got crushed. But other than that, I think it's been one score.
And Trevor Lawrence was getting kind of really maligned, which maybe rightfully so. After getting that huge contract and like not quite putting it together. But there were a couple games in there that he could have won. And then when it came to this one, he could have lost it. Now, granted, Joe Flacco got like, what was it? 17 points in 2 minutes. Did you guys watch that game at all?
Yeah, it was impressive. They were down.
we were down.
With 5 minutes left, it looked like it was over, and Flacco. Alec Pierce made that great catch on the sideline, and
both of those were Alec Pierce, right?
Yeah,
they were like 60-yard throws to Alec Pierce, and like boom, boom, and it's like Alec Pierce came into the game, and I think left the game, and maybe coming in this weekend as the highest yards per catch receiver. I think he's had that pretty much all year because he only catches long bombs. He doesn't catch anything else. It's just like, so when you're not looking at yards, you're not looking at number of catches, you're looking at per catch, most yards per catch. He's there. He's
been awesome.
But he's good in that. There was a lot of talk about, like, is he going to be off the roster since A.D. Mitchell came in? You got Pittman, you got Josh Downs, who both have been good. Is Pierce gone? Is he fighting for a spot? And Pierce, came back, and he's actually been our number one receiver this year, which is kind of crazy. As far as the big game, Pittman has had very, very slow start, and now Pittman's going to be out for a few weeks, maybe 4 weeks. To go on top of, let's see, we got Pittman out, we got JT out, we still might have AR out, we have Buckner out, we have Kenny Moore out, we still have, we just have everybody has been injured this year, and it's just not good. So looking at this game last week, I was afraid going into it because we're fighting a winless team that really has to do something or their season's gone. And it may still be gone, but we're playing them in Jacksonville. They always play us hard in Jacksonville, and they haven't been, except for that one game, they haven't been like out of most of their games. And so I had a real sinking feeling going into this weekend, and that proved true. Halfway through, I thought it was just going to be a blowout. Luckily, Joe Flacco and Alec Pierce got on the same page and did some crazy good stuff. And but Dallas Flowers, who let what was his name? Thomas? No, who was the running back who took off for the whoever
Tank Bigsby for
Bigsby, yes. When he took off, and you saw that Dallas Flowers looking like he's Superman, kind of flying after him because he's jumping and falling. He was immediately released, and our cornerback situation was already pretty thin. This was like one of the major complaints against Ballard going into the season. Everybody's like, "Hey, what are you going to do about cornerback?" And he's like, "I feel good with our positions there." And we're like, "What?" And maybe he knows something we don't know. Well, I don't know that he did. I mean, we have seen growth from a couple of our cornerbacks. Jones is looking a lot better than I thought he would this year, and Nick Cross as a safety, because both of our secondary, basically, our safeties and our cornerbacks were a concern going into this year. We gave up too many points. And yeah, it was disappointing. And now we're going against the Titans this week. And man, I'm hoping that it's not another dud, because we, again, don't know. Is it AR? Is it Flacco? What I do love is we have Flacco, who put up 35 points. That's not bad. Defense needs to step up and do its part in keeping points off the board for the other team. But
the Flacco Renaissance has been fun to watch the last couple
Isn't it crazy?
years. Yeah, it's just, I feel like he's gonna end up playing for every team from here until 2040, and he's just gonna go from one team to another, and eventually he'll have collected all 32 badges there.
It's funny. I used to make fun of Joe Flacco so bad. I'd say he has the personality of like a post. He just kind of stands there, doesn't he? But when he's on your team and he's doing well, you're like, okay, go Flacco, go Flacco. I don't care if you don't talk a lot, which he did say. I think it wasn't after this week. It was the week before that. He's only 8 days older than Anthony Richardson's mom.
Yep.
He was somebody said, AR thought you were pretty cool. And he's like, I doubt he thinks I'm pretty cool. I'm 8 days older than his mom. And everybody's like, what? Where'd that come from? But,
that's funny.
Yeah. So anyway, that's as far as the Jags game, and I was really hoping we could pull it all the way out. We were tied right close to the end, and then they got that last minute field goal. But that was our problem, for getting in that hole. I will say this: I was super surprised on Sunday for the number of games that were tied right at the end, and games that were tied went into overtime and won. There were 2 or 3 that I watched right in a row, because you'll finish your game and then they're like, we're taking you live to whatever this game is. Oh, they're tied. And then, you watch it. I think that was the Baltimore game versus, was it Cincinnati?
Yeah, talk about an exciting game. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, that one right at the end especially was like, oh, Lamar fumbled the snap. Oh, they did this. Oh, they got it. It's like crazy. And then there was there was another big game that was tied right at the end that it went right to from there. I can't remember what it was off the top of my head, but yeah. So anyway, that was my homer game, and we couldn't face 2 worse teams, and if we don't come out of this one with a win, forget about it. This Titans game, we'll be facing. It's not even probably going to be Will Levis. It's going to be who's the Willis?
No, Malik Willis is in Green Bay now.
Yes.
He's in Green Bay.
Oh, he's in Green Bay. Who's their backup?
I
Oh,
don't think we know.
Mason Rudolph. Mason
Oh,
Rudolph.
yes.
No, yeah,
Yeah.
Mason Rudolph.
Yes.
We'll
Mason
probably
Rudolph.
be facing Mason Rudolph. So, anyway. Anyway, what about your game, Brandon? Why don't we go ahead with the Packers game?
Packers Rams, always a classic matchup. Matt LaFleur, Sean McVay, best friends in real life, come from the Shanahan coaching tree. Just two geniuses offensively. It's always fun to watch the matchups because it's never really a blowout, and you never really count either team out at the same time. And so we did have Xavier McKinney got his 5th interception in 5 games, one interception per game.
That. Yeah.
And PFF, who we rate very highly here on the Fandemic, has Xavier McKinney ranked as the #1 safety in the NFL right now, which is a fantastic feeling, knowing that he's not like paid top of the market safety money right now. He's just under that threshold, and he's #1. He was worth every penny we paid for him. I'm so happy we picked him up because he picks up on mistakes that the offense makes, and he also cleans up mistakes that the defense makes. Mm-hmm. It's really hard to get that combo in there. He's had more interceptions since joining Green Bay than he had his entire time in New York as a Giant the past 4 seasons. And so that makes me feel really good. If you're going on the betting lines, I'd say you could probably make quite a bit of money if you got an interception every single game. I don't think that's going to happen. There has to be a week where it doesn't.
Wouldn't it be great if it did, though?
I would absolutely love it if that had happened. I just want to be realistic about it. He's one of those players that comes in, and if he plays like this for 3, 4, 5, 6 seasons, you're looking at a potential Packers Hall of Famer. I don't want to go out to the Canton level, but the last time we had someone come in and make this sort of impact right away was Charles Woodson, and then before that was Reggie White, and we both know
of them ended up
with gold jackets. And so I don't want to go put the cart too far before the horse. He still has to prove it, but right now he's in a really good trajectory to do so. And so I'm overall pleased with that. Coming up, we have Arizona, the Cardinals, in Green Bay. And the thing that I'm looking for in this game is Arizona has a bottom 5 run defense. So I'm looking for that exact same game plan that we had against Indy. Just run the ball, run it down their throats, and do some jet sweeps to Jaden Reed, lots of play action, throw the ball deep, and I think we're going to win the game.
I want to say this real quick about this is like going completely fantasy. So for those of you who don't know, for fantasy this year, I went totally crazy and just decided to not looking to win any game. So we used to have this league called Better Than 0-15. I was trying to break that title, not be better. I have a team that was 0-15, not be better than 0-15. So I drafted all Indianapolis Colts, starting with Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman Jr., then Anthony Richardson, and on down the line, because at that point I could get whoever I wanted. Nobody was drafting those guys. And I got it. Got my whole Colts lineup. And I thought I would win no games this year. That was actually kind of my goal. I won this last week in fantasy football. And,
let me pull up the matchup.
Yeah, and I was playing against Jordan Love. I have Joe Flacco, obviously, who got almost double the points. He got 38 to 22 for Jordan Love, almost double the fantasy points. I just wanted to throw that out there, Packers fans. That's what happened. The rest of his league didn't play great, but I even had a guy who didn't score any points, and I still won somehow. But that's crazy.
That's awesome. Are you guys able to hear? Sorry, I had some technical difficulties, and I wasn't able to hear anything for a little bit. Are you guys able to hear me now?
We can,
got you.
Yes. And
all right,
we'll move on to your matchup that was the Sunday morning England event that got the whole Jets shakeup started.
Yeah, down here that wake up time was 6:30 in the morning, so it was a early day of football. I know how all of those like soccer fans that watch European soccer and all that, like I know how they feel now when they have to wake up at the break of dawn in order to watch their team play. But this game was won by the Vikings defense. They played against Aaron Rodgers really well, and it was a fun chess match to watch. Brian Flores against Aaron Rodgers. The Vikings have this front that they bring a lot on third down where they have 7 guys come up to the line of scrimmage, and usually throughout the course of this season, they've brought most of those guys back out into coverage, and they'll only rush 4 or maybe 5. This time, the first time they did it was the first third down the Jets faced. They brought all 7 guys. It forced Aaron Rodgers to get a quick throw off, and they didn't get the first down. The next time they did it, they rushed 6 guys, and this time, knowing that Aaron Rodgers would expect all 7 guys to come, they dropped Andrew Van Ginkel out, and Andrew Van Ginkel came in and he got the interception, and that is what scored a difference-making touchdown in that game. They did that same thing where they just brought those 7 guys and kept dropping Van Ginkel out, and Aaron Rodgers got sacked on one of those plays, and he threw another short completion on one of those plays, but he almost got the last laugh, and that's why the chess match is so fun, because the next time the Vikings did it was towards the end of the game. He pumps once, gets Van Ginkel to jump, and has Garrett Wilson working on a double move that Rodgers just overshoots, or else it's a game-winning touchdown. And it was like so that chess match I think was really fun. Stephon Gilmore comes away with the interception at the end, and then the offense wasn't great. Sam Darnold, I don't think it was terrible because the guys were covered. Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison were covered well by Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed throughout the game. So he wasn't making wrong reads, but there were a couple of plays where he did throw it over the head of his guys. He missed Justin Jefferson on one. He kind of underthrew him. It would have been a 50-yard touchdown instead of a 20-yard completion. So there still are some kinks to work out with the offense, especially on the interior offensive line. But the defense was great. We're going into a bye, and there was some rain that could have affected the throws of Sam Darnold a little bit in that second half. So I'm still encouraged by the Vikings, and I'm not as worried as I was last weekend about Sam Darnold, even though his numbers showed that he had a worse game.
Yeah. You bring up an interesting point. Both undefeated teams are on byes this week. Kansas City and Minnesota both on a bye this week. So we won't get to see a first loss in week 6. That's going to be pushed out to week 7, and we'll see which one of them lasts the longest.
Now, let's stick in that fantasy world just for a couple of minutes, Matthew.
Yeah.
Just for anyone that's not in our league, this week Matthew has probably the most important matchup of his life that he's ever had in fantasy football.
What is
and
that?
It's me.
Oh,
so
you're probably going to win if all else holds true. I can't believe I won one, to be honest.
The old standing stands true, Matthew. Better than 0-15. We will never be a fully defeated league, and we've gotten close 2 of those seasons.
Times.
And and you were like, "It is guaranteed this season. It will not happen."
I thought it was guaranteed. They changed the name from Better Than 0-15 to the Midwest Open, and I'm like, no, don't change it. I want to break that name, but I can't even break it, so it's fine. I guess that we changed it. So
maybe almost 0-15. We'll go to that next year.
Yeah. Hey, so here's looking back at the weeks. Looking forward, we have both 5-0 teams are on a bye. We have no more winless teams. That's out the window with the Jags beating the Colts. Here's the question: which is the biggest underdog you think will win this week? Here was the underdogs listed at more than 5, +5 and over. Washington at Dallas, Cardinals at Green Bay, Pats at Houston, New England at Houston, Cleveland at Philadelphia, or Panthers and Atlanta.
Is there a Cincinnati game this week? Or are they on the bye?
You know what? They may be on a bye. Let me check real quick.
No, they're in New York against the Giants this week. I know it's not really an underdog team, but that's a team that desperately needs a win. And they've been so close. I think they get it against the Giants. I know they're ranked, according to ESPN, 16th out of 16 in the AFC.
Yeah. And I said earlier, just to clarify, I said Washington versus Dallas. It's Baltimore. I don't know where I got Dallas. Washington versus Baltimore. That's why they're an underdog. I don't think they would be as big an underdog against Dallas, but what do you think?
I think out of those 5-point or more underdogs, I mean, I have a hard time picking against Washington, just because their offense has been so good. Their defense has also gotten a bit better. And granted, they played the Browns last week, whose offense is kind of in shambles. But they were giving up big plays left and right against any team that they played through the first 3 weeks of the season. But they lock it down a little bit more against Kyler Murray a couple of weeks ago. They stopped Deshaun Watson and the Cleveland Browns last week as well. So their defense is slowly getting better. And that's a big credit to Dan Quinn. I think they should be able to slow down Baltimore as well. And we just saw Baltimore give up a lot of points. So if any of those teams that I have the most faith in, it would definitely be Washington. And that's just going to be a fun game with Jaden Daniels and Lamar Jackson dueling it out. You got guys that can do just about everything you'd want to see a quarterback do on both sides of the ball now. So like, it's going to be fun. It's one you can't look away from because something big could happen the very next play.
Yeah, I'm like you, as I look through those teams, it's like, who do I have confidence in? Do I have confidence in the Panthers beating Atlanta? No way. I don't. Kirk Cousins, I think, is going to beat them handily, even with, they still have Andy Dalton back there. Is he still the guy? Did any of us watch enough to know or care?
Bryce Young came in on the last drive once the game was out of hand, but Andy Dalton was still the guy.
Okay. Browns over Philadelphia. Well, I'm not going to say I know what Philadelphia is this year. I keep thinking, okay, they're still a powerhouse, but they get beat sometimes. That could. So that might be my second. Pat's beating Houston.
I think AJ Brown is back this week too for Philly. For Philly.
Oh, that makes a difference in Philly's favor. Pat's beating Houston. I don't see it. I just don't. Cardinals beating Green Bay. I don't think so. I think Washington over Baltimore would be my pick, but that's probably the toughest team to go against too, out of all of these. So that's going to be, like you said, that's going to be a really fun game. Yeah. Well, let's get into our main topic here. Unless, Brandon, you had something you still wanted to weigh in on there. Okay.
No, sir.
Main topic is, let's pick the division winner we think at this point in the season, division winner for each division, and which division do we think will send at least two, or we'll send two or more to the playoffs. Okay, so we're just going to start in the AFC. We're going to start north, and we're going to go around the compass. Okay, so AFC North right now. Who do you guys got as a winner? I think we're probably all going to agree on some of these, and I think this one in particular, I see Baltimore.
Oh, you said AFC North, and I was staring at AFC East.
Yeah, you know why? Because they always start. This is a question for me. Like when you go to the NFL.com, at least, they always do East, North, South, West. Why do they go in that order instead of North, East? Why don't they just go around? They do the same thing with the NFC.
I'm just on ESPN's website right now.
They do the same thing. I don't understand.
It starts with the East.
East, North. It's not even like, I don't know. I feel like it should go.
It doesn't even go clockwise. Yeah, it
right.
doesn't. It goes. It
east,
skips
south,
all around.
West, north. If you want to start with the East, but so yes, drop down one. We're going to do the same thing when we hit the NFC because I went cardinal direction in clockwise. So, but for the AFC North, I think the Steelers are the only ones who are possible to give them a run, but I don't know that I feel like Justin Fields is going to top the Ravens. Maybe we don't all agree here, but I feel like maybe the Ravens here.
Yeah, I know Baltimore had a really rough start to the season, and they've bounced back remarkably quick, which is in Baltimore's favor. The main thing I'm looking at right now in this point of the season, we have 5 weeks of data. We're going into our first round of bye weeks. Yep. Is what's the point differential? How is your offense compared to your defense? And right now, Baltimore and Pittsburgh are almost exactly the same. Baltimore is at a 21-point differential, and Pittsburgh's at a 19-point differential. And so they're within 2 points of each other on total points scored, total points lost. Both are in the positive. I cannot say the same for the bottom two teams, Cleveland and Cincinnati. Although Cleveland is -42 and Cincinnati's only -5, there's a significant difference there.
Yeah. Cincinnati, I think, what was it? Joe Burrow has, I don't remember, 22 touchdowns or something, and he only has one win in the season.
Yeah.
It's like crazy.
So I think Baltimore continues their trend of looking really, really good. Pittsburgh, they're going to do what Mike Tomlin always does and just have a winning season. I don't think it's a division winning season.
Yeah, I think Baltimore skyrockets to the top. I think the only one that it could really give them issues is Cincinnati, but they're too far, like that they're too far off the starting block right now to really, I think. I mean, I guess they're only 2 games back, so maybe that 1-4 record can improve quickly, but
It's hard though.
It's a hard trek up, especially when you only have one more game against the Ravens and you just lost this last one. That would have changed things up just a little bit. And Cincinnati's defense has also really struggled this season. They haven't been able to stop whoever they've gone up against. I like the Ravens to win, but I think the Bengals could make a little bit of a push.
Let's move to the AFC East. I'm going to start again just because I want to. I think in this one, it's going to be the Bills. So here was my thinking going into this. If this whole shakeup ended up changing things for the better, the Jets are only 1 game behind. They're not out of striking distance. And the story, the fairy tale kind of ending would be that this shakeup was what kicked them into gear. Aaron Rodgers kind of takes over the offense along with this play caller, and things suddenly look a lot better because it is their offense that is really letting them down right now. Mm-hmm. And it could turn around. It could. Do I see it turning around to the point that they outplay the Bills? I don't see it. Could it happen? It definitely could, but I'm going to still go with the Bills on this one. I love the fairy tale idea for all those New York fans and the Jets fans and Aaron Rodgers fans, but I think the Bills got this one.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you there, Matthew. It's very possible Devontae Adams still goes to the Jets. The Jets improve. Right now, with the exception of the Ravens game for Buffalo, they have been so dominant. They have, if you include that game in there, they're like 3rd in point differential, 4th in the NFL. And they were down by 20 points at the end of that game. And so that hit them so hard, it knocked them to only 4th in the league. If we don't have that much data to go off of, it's 5 weeks. And so they've just been so dominant in all of their games. I think they continue a streak of dominance. They'll probably have a 2 or 3 game streak somewhere in the season. All of these teams always do, where they just drop a couple games, and that happens. Probably coming up at the end of this month, beginning of next month. It's going to happen. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. But Buffalo's going to come in and they're going to do really strong. I think they win the East.
You did say something about if Devontae comes. The interesting thing is they actually play each other this week, Bills and Jets. So if the Jets would somehow win, it's not just that their records are tied now, but it's also like a divisional win over for that tie break. And then if Devontae Adams came in and things got fixed, it could start to go the other way. But,
it could.
Yeah. And let's not forget, we don't know when Tua Tagovailoa is coming back for Miami. I think they have a bye this week, and he could come back. His practice window would open up before week 7. So that makes things a little bit interesting, especially with Miami pulling out a win last week and now just being a game out of first place as well. They have the same record as the Jets. I still think that the Bills are going to end up winning, but I think if Tua comes back week 7, that makes this divisional race a lot more muddier. And I'm excited to watch this one go all the way to the finish line because, I mean, Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen, Tua, and his weapons that he has over there, it's going to be really fun to see which one of those offenses win out. And I think Buffalo comes out on top after all of it, but the Jets and Dolphins, and if Drake May ends up being good, then I mean the Patriots are right there in the mix too. So I'm just excited to watch this division throughout the rest of the season.
It would be fun to watch the Jets of all teams really push Buffalo because I mean, my goodness, when was the last time the Jets were good? I can't even remember what year that was.
Haven't been in the playoffs since
2008. 2008 was
you
Brett
guys
Favre.
both remember. All right, let's move to the AFC South. So I'll just start all of the AFC since I just keep starting, and I feel like it's beholden on me to say I think the Texans are going to win this division. As sad as that is, I as a Colts guy, I was really hoping the Colts would be pushing them hard at this point. There was a point where I'm like, oh, if we beat the Jags, we could be in a tied situation with them. Well, neither one of those, Texans won, we lost. Now we're 2 games out of first. Yeah, the Titans and the Jags behind us each only have 1 win. So I don't think they're going to make loud noises, but I don't think the Colts right now are either. I had high hopes. Too many injuries. I think the Texans win another division year.
Here's the interesting thing about the AFC South, just in the NFL in general. Right now, the AFC South is the only division in football where every team is negative on their point differentials. And the closest team to 0 is the Colts. They're at -3. So the Colts have been in more games than the Texans have. But you're 2 games behind.
Yeah,
that's the wild part. I'm not going to write out the Colts.
We have lost all
right
of our
away.
games by a very small margin. It's true.
Yeah, you're -3 in your point differential.
Crazy.
For 5 weeks into the season, and the Texans are -12, and that's 3rd place. The Titans are -11, and so the Colts have been in these games. There's just a little bit of extra push that needs to happen from Indianapolis throughout the rest of the season, and just flip that script. And I know Josh can talk his perspective with the Vikings, but I feel like the Vikings are always on either one side of really close games. It's either they have a fantastic season, but all of their games were won by 1 score, or they have a horrible season and all of their games were lost by 1 score.
What I will say is going into this season, there was all of that perennial talk again about man, the AFC South looks like it's going to be a tough division. You got Trevor Lawrence in there and who just got paid. You got the Colts with Anthony Richardson. You got the Texans, of course, with CJ Stroud, who was so great. And who knows what the Titans will be with Will Levis. And there was all that talk. But now as the season, you said, we're all negative.
The only division in the NFL.
We're sitting with 2 teams with 1 win. One of them was winless last week. It's just AFC South all over again.
All right, picture this. We're sitting here at the end of next month. The Colts and Texans are very close to one another in the standings. December is about to start, and the Colts look at their schedule. They have the Patriots. They have the Broncos. They have the Titans. They have the Giants, and they have the Jaguars to end the season. The Texans have Tua Tagovailoa's Dolphins. They have Patrick Mahomes' Chiefs. They have Lamar Jackson's Ravens. And then they end with the Tennessee Titans. But I like the Indianapolis Colts to tread water until then, especially, the Texans have the Packers coming up, and they have the Lions still coming up, and the Jets still coming up. That's a tough schedule for Houston, and I like Anthony Richardson. I think he's only going to get better. I'm going to say the Indianapolis Colts come from behind and win this division.
I love you. And, that's true. I have not looked at the end of the season. And if they can get some people healthy, I think if we had Jonathan Taylor this last week, if we have either AR or Jonathan Taylor, I think we can win. But when we have neither of them, I think it's harder.
Yeah.
Yep, they're going to get healthy, and it'll be the Colts. I still think the Texans will get into the playoffs, but the Colts, they were my division winners to begin the year. I'm gonna stick with them.
All right.
Brandon, are you weighing in?
I'm still gonna go. I'm still gonna go with the Texans, only because I'm not 100% confident the Colts are gonna flip the script. I still think they're gonna lose really close games, which is frustrating as a fan. I understand, Matthew. This is not a personal attack on you. I just think it's I just think those really close games are going to just flip the other way this season. But I think the next season they're going to have more stuff figured out. AR is going to understand how to be healthier in the NFL. He's going to make smarter decisions during the game, turn the ball over less. Jonathan Taylor healthy. And I think there's a lot of good stuff moving forward, just not this season.
I just want to say I like Josh's outlook better, and and after hearing his reasoning, man, I'm close to flipping. Because that is a very soft end of year schedule. Unless all those teams right now that don't look so good get better as well and look better. If you're just looking at the strength of schedule, That's gonna be tough for the Texans to watch us play that string of softies. So,
and no Nico Collins for Houston for the next 4 weeks too. So
that's right. That's a big deal.
Yeah, Tank Dell
for
fantasy owners rejoice.
All right, let's move down to the AFC West. Boy, this is a tough one. I'm thinking no, I'm going to go with the Chiefs on this one.
Agreed.
I will say this: Broncos have surprised me. Like not just that they've won, but their score has been pretty heavy. Like they're not like one, a few points. They're pretty big wins. I think they beat the Raiders this last week. Again, what's that really saying? But they're doing better than I thought they would, but I still think Chiefs for sure. I don't think the Broncos are even going to make the playoffs. I don't think.
Yeah, I think the Chiefs too. I think unfortunately it's going to be done in maybe the most boring fashion that we've seen out of Kansas City through the last couple of years. Like we're still waiting for that offense to explode. That's at least when it can be fun, when you can watch a dominant team that's fun to watch. This is a dominant team that's boring to watch at times. So yeah. I still think they win the division. I think it's hard to pick against them.
Yeah.
I'm in agreement.
I was going to say, Brandon's shaking his head, which I think means right with you. Okay, so we're going with the NFC North. Don't look at the East. Look at the North. And you guys should be very comfortable with this division. I'm not going to start all of these since I started all the AFC South.
I'll start these ones.
Okay.
So NFC
Josh
North
in the middle every time.
NFC North, I was mentioning the point differential earlier, is the only division in the NFL right now where every team is positive on their point differential. And the lowest one is by 20 points. And so that's a really good outlook for this division. It's also currently the most winning division in the NFL right now. Yeah. And I was listening to some Bears fans because most of them are my family members and I can't cut them out of my life.
Even though you want to.
There's the very fine line right there. And they were all talking about, I can't believe now that the Bears are finally good, in quotations, of course. It's within a vacuum. The rest of the NFC North is also good. And I had to break it to them. The Lions have been good for a couple of years. The Vikings have their seasons. And the Packers have been good for the past few seasons. The Bears have really just been a really bad team for a long time. And they didn't like that answer. And they responded to me with, well, in 1985, we were the best team. You were in 1985. Do you know how many years ago that was?
I do, because I was alive.
It was a long time ago. You got a lot of runway that you've been living on that with.
Guys, I just want you to know that was my freshman year of high school. So I remember the shuffling crew shuffling on down, and we're doing it for you.
The Super Bowl shuffle.
They know they are good. Yeah. Yep, I know the whole thing.
Yeah, so does my family. I hear it all the time. And this is the only division I'm not 100% sold on. I love what the Vikings have done as an organization so far this year. They've looked fantastic. And just bringing in a quarterback that everyone had written off, Kevin O'Connell coming in and doing Kevin O'Connell, Shanahan tree things. Brian Flores coming in looking really good with the defense. All of it's really important, but every team is within 2 games in this division. And so it's really tight. It's really close. I'm always going to be biased. I always think the Packers are going to win the division. I will never stop thinking that. But in this current reality, I don't have anyone locked down as a definitive answer to win the division. We've seen Chicago's offense come out and look strong at times. This past week, I know it was against Carolina. It's a little bit different. We've seen their defense come out and look really strong. I know it was against Tennessee. I know their defense put up 24 points. We've seen the Lions and Dan Campbell come out, look really strong. And we've seen the Packers do it with a bunch of injured guys too. And so what does that look like when they're full-fledged and healthy? The Vikings had a probably closer than wanting game against the Jets this past week. Sam Darnold did not particularly look the same way he had the past couple weeks. And is he in decline? Was it just a little 2-week stint where he might not be fully good? He comes back in week 7 after their bye week this week and looks really good. It's the only division I'm not sure about. I feel like it can go any way still at this point in the season. Maybe we see it where miraculously the Bears win the division and the Vikings are last in the division. Likely not to happen, but it could happen. And so for that reason, I'm officially undecided on this podcast. Off of this podcast, it's the Packers.
I like what the Vikings have done. I like the teams that they've beaten with the Texans, the Jets, the Packers, and the 49ers. Those are all like very good teams to have as wins against on your resume. But for whatever reason, the kryptonite for Minnesota since Kevin O'Connell has come has been Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions. They have just struggled in every game that they've played against. They've won some of them, but they just have not been able to slow down Ben Johnson's offense, and they've been able to get points against Detroit. But it seems like the Lions are able to do whatever they want up and down the field. So the Vikings play the Lions in Week 7. If the Vikings can show, okay, we can beat the Lions, we can play with them, then I can be more definitive in choosing Minnesota. But until that happens, until I see Minnesota beat Detroit, I'm going to lean Lions right now.
And to your point, Josh, I think Dan Campbell has been everyone's kryptonite in the NFC North. Mm-hmm. He's just come in, and you have to love the guy. He's so good as a coach, and he gets down to basic fundamentals and wants to beat the living snot out of you. Yeah. That's what we love about football.
And Ben Johnson is, and as much as I love Matt LaFleur, I think Ben Johnson for me he's 1A and then LaFleur 1B in terms of offensive play callers in the NFL.
They're very good. Yeah.
Yeah. So my thinking was I was trying to remember who the wins have come against, and you guys could probably tell me so you just told us who the Vikings have played so far. Who did the Packers play? I know the Packers played the Colts one week, and they ran all over us.
So we have a good victory against the Colts. We have a good victory against the Titans, and then we beat the Rams this past week. Those are our 3 wins. We lost against the Vikings, and we lost against the Eagles.
In Brazil on a bad field.
Yeah.
And then the Lions, their schedule so far, let me pull it up here. They had the Giants, Kansas City, and they lost to the Giants, which is weird.
No, hold on.
That might be preseason.
I'm in preseason.
Week 1 was the Rams.
They won. Tampa Bay, they lost. Cardinals, they won.
Seattle, Seahawks, they won.
And the Bears, you just mentioned some of their wins. So in looking at all that, I feel like it's going to be nothing personal, Brandon, or Packers fans. I feel like it's going to be a Vikings or Lions this year. And
it's always personal.
Yeah. I'm having trouble deciding which of those I feel like is going to be more, because if you would have asked me before this season started, I would have been like Lions all the way, because I thought the Vikings with Sam Darnold weren't. I didn't think they were going to be much, but they've obviously surprised me, and they're undefeated, and it really makes me take a step back. They're 2 games ahead of the Lions too. That gives them some buffer as they're still continuing to figure out their system. I think they're going to continue to get better. I don't think they're going to suddenly fall off. Right now, I'm going Vikings. So we just got 3 different picks here. Okay, so we got a Packers, and then the Vikings fan picked the Lions. I can say this, and then I picked the Vikings. So we're going to have a fun time watching this division. And I do think, as far as we're going to get here in just a moment to who's going to fill in some of those wild card spots. I think this division is going to fill a lot of those. So we'll come back to that here in a moment, but I'm going to go with Vikings for this one. But just so everybody knows, for me, it's between the Vikings and the Lions. Now, Brandon's going to laugh like crazy if the Packers win, and I'll just have to hang my head, as I often do, because they always, make these big comebacks at the end of the year. But that's where I'm going for now.
All right. Well, let's hop on to the NFC South. I know Matthew only has 9 minutes left.
I can go just a little longer than that. Things have changed just a little bit, but yeah.
All right. NFC South, right now we're looking at a tie at first place. We have Atlanta Falcons, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We have the Saints, and we covered their quarterback injury, and the Carolina Panthers. I think it's safe to put the Carolina Panthers to bed. They're not going to win the division.
Out.
I think that's an agreement of everyone. I like, out of all of this so far, Tampa Bay to take the division. I know they're tied right now with the Atlanta Falcons. I really like the consistency Baker Mayfield has brought to that offense down there. Their defense has not looked horrible. They've always had a really strong defense the past decade or so. And Mike Evans, oh my gosh, talk about a receiver that can literally do it with anyone. The rawest talent we have, in my opinion, in the NFL. He's done it with Jameis Winston. He's done it with Tom Brady. He's done it with Baker Mayfield. And only one of those guys is a Hall of Fame quarterback. And we got Mike Evans coming out here throwing up 1,000-yard receiving seasons with every single one of them, regardless of his situation. I like the Buccaneers coming out for the victory of the division.
Yeah, I'll go Buccaneers as well. I do like Kirk Cousins and the Falcons. What they did against Tampa Bay this last game, I think that's what Falcons fans dreamed of when they first signed Kirk Cousins. Is games are going to be like this. We're going to have a really good offense, but I don't know if that's going to be the norm, because Kirk Cousins is a guy that doesn't really trend one way or another. He just has random spikes and random dips, and you don't know when they come. I watched that for 6 years with the Minnesota Vikings. So I don't know if he's consistent enough. And I think Baker Mayfield, 4 of the 5 games, has played really, really good. The only one that he didn't was against the Broncos, I believe. They're the only team to beat Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders back in week 1. I like what the Buccaneers have been able to do, and especially now with Derek Carr out for a little bit for the New Orleans Saints, and the question marks with Spencer Rattler or Jake Haener or whoever, like how long he's out, and whatever those 2 backups are able to do. I don't think they're going to be able to keep pace with Tampa and Atlanta, and I think Tampa comes out on top.
Yeah, I think Kirk Cousins is going to raise the Atlanta organization as far as wins. I think they're going to end higher. I'm still going with Tampa Bay as well, though, partially because Baker Mayfield's had that season with them. He knows that there is, and it's like you said, they're the only team to have beaten Washington. Their loss, their losses don't concern me as much. You look at their schedule toward the end. They both have a few tough teams. They have some easy teams. I think it's going to be fairly close, but I think Tampa Bay is going to take it barely.
All right. Let's head on over to a division just a couple of years ago we thought was the greatest division in football for some reason, the NFC East. They had that one season where it was
we
it
thought
was
all
spectacular.
4 might go.
Yeah, and what a season that was. We have the coming into the year, the Eagles were the favorite. I think that was everyone's consensus. Cowboys were probably second, and then somewhere at the bottom was Washington, New York. I think it's safe to say New York, or not New York, New York stays at the bottom, that Washington takes the division this year. Jaden Daniels has come in and looked like a seasoned veteran so far in these first 5 weeks. He's been able to do it through the air. He's been able to do it through the ground. He's been able to utilize all of his weapons. And the defense has been able to stand in and hold games. They have, I think, the 3rd highest point differential in the NFL right now. They're plus 40. Which is just absolutely fantastic for a rookie quarterback to come in and look this good. It's almost like the last time we saw a rookie quarterback look this good, they were drafted by Indianapolis, and Washington took a different quarterback that did not look as good. And so I'm glad to see that he's doing well. I'm curious to know how the development throughout the season is going to go. If a defensive coordinator magically finds a way to stop him, and then all of a sudden it halts all his production, that would be the only thing for me right now, seeing their downfall. I think they win the division. I think they represent the NFC East, and I think they're knocking on the door for that first round bye.
Yeah, you confused me because I went with North, and then you did that thing and went right to South earlier. And then so when you said this about the greatest division, I was already looking at the West, and then you're talking about the East, and I was like really confused. So to get back here, I guess I started talking. So normally we let Josh go in the center, but I'm going to go this time. I also believe the Commanders are going to win this. They're only a game ahead of the Cowboys, yes, but I have a lot more faith right now from what I've seen as a team, the Commanders. And I think there's just this, it's kind of like that momentum wave. I think there's a momentum rising from a team that's been not good for so long that I think that's going to carry. And I think the Cowboys have they've been at this like more of a level peak. I don't know if you would ever call them a peak, but they just feel like what they always felt like to me. Not quite
Losers? Oh, sorry. I didn't say that.
Okay, Josh, what do you think?
Yeah, I think the Cowboys have gotten a little bit over some of the stuff that plagued them early on in the season defensively. Micah Parsons wasn't in that game last week, and they were still able to do well against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And their offense started to get rolling with 445 total yards. I want to see when those teams match up in November how that game goes, Washington and Dallas. I'm leaning Washington right now, and I also do like Philadelphia. I know last week I said they might be trending downwards, and then Brandon reminded me that they have not had both AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. So now I've switched on that and think the Eagles might be back for me being the favorites, and they're 2-2 right now. It's tough because I don't know if I trust Washington's defense yet, even after those last two games. I'm going to go Eagles right now because I like with AJ Brown and Devontae Smith coming back. And Saquon Barkley has been good this entire time. Maybe they regrouped during their bye last week. So I'm recanting on what I said last week about the Eagles, and I think I'm going to put them back to the top of this division until I see Washington get even a little bit more equity. Although I really like I'll go Eagles, but I like what Washington's doing.
All right, and let's finish it up with the NFC West, where Matthew was looking earlier.
Yeah, we're going all over the cardinal directions here.
I was going north, south, east, west. That's the way I'm used to saying it. I prefer to look at it that way, and I did not communicate that at all. For this one, I still think I don't think Arizona is going to be in the running. I'm never going to count out Sean McVay and his offensive mind. I'm never going to count out Kyle Shanahan and his offensive mind. And Geno Smith and the freaking Seahawks, man, they amaze me all the time. That being said, I think the end of the season comes out, the winner of this division is going to be the San Francisco 49ers. I know they've had a rough start to the season. They had a lot of inside the walls of their organization, some turmoil with Deebo Samuel, with Trent Williams, and all of these contract and millions of dollars being spent. All of their games that they've had so far that they've lost have been really close games. You had their loss to the Vikings, they lost by 5 points. Their loss to the Rams, they lost by a field goal. And then their loss to the Cardinals was by a single point. There's still a lot of time to turn this around, and they've never been counted out of any of those games. That being said, the games they've won, and I know they're against teams that are towards the bottom right now, we're not fully counting out the New York Jets, but they beat them 32-19, and then they handled the Patriots 30-13. And so this upcoming week, I think they don't have a bye. Oh,
they
tonight.
Play each other.
Tonight, the Seahawks. The Seahawks 49ers in San Francisco. I like San Francisco for this game. There just has to be a time where they come and turn it around. And we've seen Kyle Shanahan do it in the past. And then they just get humming the rest of the season. And they're just a freaking powerhouse. I like them. They're not too far off from where they need to be for winning the division. What is that?
They're one game behind.
Seahawks. One game? Yeah. And I think that's reasonable. They could wrap that up tonight, right? And take that. And so 49ers are my pick.
Josh?
Yeah, I'll go 49ers as well. 2022, they started off, I think, 3-4 and still ended up winning that division. Nobody, like all their best players have looked good in every single game they played. Even in their losses, they haven't looked bad. So like I've seen good performances from Brock Purdy every single week. I've seen good performances from Jordan Mason filling in for Christian McCaffrey every single week. I think even if Mason is the running, like if McCaffrey, we find out his injury was season ending, I would still have faith in Jordan Mason to really keep this 49ers team going on offense. Yeah, I'm going to go with San Francisco winning this division and maybe losing only 1 or 2 games the rest of the season.
We are in agreement because Seahawks, while they started strong, they have not looked great. Mostly their defense, I feel like, this last couple of weeks. But I do think the 49ers are really close tonight. That game's going to tie those two teams up, in my opinion. And I think from there on, it'll be what you guys said. It'll be a lot of them doing what they do and playing well. And if they get Christian McCaffrey back, that's only going to add to their weapons and what they can do.
All right.
So with the division winners, where do you think the wild cards are going to come from? Who's going to contribute more than one team to this playoff picture? I kind of hinted at it already. I think that AFC North right now is a strong contender because when I look at Vikings, Lions, and Packers, again, nothing against the Bears. They could, all the Bears fans are going to be like, what are you talking about? They're tied right with everybody. But I see at least 3 teams could go from that division alone into the 7, that make up the NFC.
Yeah, I could see. I mean, now that we have 7 teams, I could even see if Caleb Williams keeps trending the way he did. And granted, it was against Carolina this past week, but if he trends that way through most of the rest of the season, we could have 4 teams coming from the NFC North. I think that would be the first time that it would ever have happened since they expanded to 7.
We've been waiting for it too. We thought it was going to happen one year with the
NFC West,
Kansas City. Oh wait, NFC West.
NFC West. That's San Francisco.
Talking about right.
We also thought one season it was going to be the NFC East based on the way they were trending. We projected. We always thought it was going to come from the NFC just based on.
I think one year we really expected AFC West to do something. Now this was back. We thought that they would do something because I feel like at that time the Broncos were riding higher. The Chargers were looking up with, I think they may have just gotten Justin Herbert, and the Raiders had Derek Carr still. And we anticipated before the season started that all those teams would be good. It did not end up that way, but
I'll go with multiple teams from the North and then maybe a team from the West or East.
Yeah, right now the way it sits, if it ended today, the wild card spots would be 5th seed Detroit, 6th seed Tampa Bay, 7th seed Dallas. If it ended today in the NFC, I still like Tampa Bay as an option in there, and I also like the option of Green Bay and arguably whoever the. Between the two of you, the Vikings or the Lions, who does not win the division, and how that shakes out.
I love those little tries there. Look over at the AFC. AFC has to send 7 teams also. I think it's a lot more obvious in the AFC who's the top, a little less obvious who's the middle. I think if I'm going in there, I'm looking at maybe the Steelers, maybe one of those AFC South teams, the Colts or the Texans, whichever one might not win it. I don't know that I believe the Broncos will. They could prove me wrong. I just didn't see it coming into this year, and I don't know that I see it continuing on. But there's got to be a third team in there somewhere, and I don't know who it's going to be.
So right now, if it ended today, Pittsburgh's at 5, Denver's at 6, Chargers at 7. Just sitting right outside that bubble, depending on how stuff shakes down, is the New York Jets. We talked about, I still think a really strong contender and just got off on the wrong foot is Cincinnati. I know they are 16 out of 16 right now. I do not expect that to be the case throughout this entire season. I do expect them to come and have a strong push, probably for that 7th seed, going in there. And depending on how Tua bounces back, if Tua bounces back, Miami also looking at knocking in the door.
Yeah. I'm going to go 1 wild card from the AFC South. That for me, that'd be the Texans with the Colts winning it. And then 2 wild cards from the AFC East. I think the Jets and I think Tua comes back, and I think he comes back and plays well, and it allows the Dolphins to bounce back enough. I think we have 3 teams from the East making it to the playoffs.
That'll be a fun one to watch at AFC because it's got a lot of shaking out to do before we really have a good, clear picture there. Real quick, great game, bad game, maybe surprising game. I'll start. Washington Ravens, going to be a great game. Can't wait to see that one. Bad game, I really... So I don't really want to say Colts versus Titans, but with all of our injuries, I'm afraid I'm still going to watch it. The other one I had as a possible was Giants Bengals because I just don't know where they're at yet. But and then my surprising game, I think I'm going to go with Bills Jets because I just want to see what this crazy shakeup means in a week where it's their first week back. Sometimes there's that surge. It is a division game. I just kind of want to watch that one, and that's a Monday night, I think, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to go marquee 49er Seahawks. It's obvious.
It's a good one.
Manure Jaguars at Chicago. I just have absolutely no interest in that. A surprising game I think we'll see is Browns in Philly. With the addition of having A.J. Brown back this week, we're going to see a different sort of Philly offense.
I fully expect Philly to win that week, but I always bet against the Browns now.
My marquee is going to be Lions Cowboys, the kind of revenge for the whole fiasco and that 2-point conversion last year with the ineligible guy who did report, but they said he didn't report. I think we might see the first literal biting of kneecaps from the Detroit Lions at some point in this game to avenge that. The manure, I'm going to go with the Steelers Raiders. I don't know. Both the Steelers have, when they've won, it's been boring wins. The Raiders, when I don't trust Aiden O'Connell. And then my the surprise one, I think Drake May has a good game for the Patriots and he makes them competitive against the Houston Texans. I'm excited just to see how he does going up against another young quarterback in CJ Stroud. I think that one could be a fun one that we might not have expected if Jacoby Brissett was the starting quarterback.
All right. Well, I think that is going to do it for us today. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Football Fandemic. We are going to be back next week with whatever goes on in the NFL because it's always a toss-up every week. See you guys then on the Football Fandemic. See y'all.